Hello, I'm Don Nystrom, and today we're going to talk about the spring election, which is coming up real soon. And I've invited to the studio our city clerk, Deb Hall, and we are going to talk about what you need to know if you're going to vote on April 2nd, which is called the spring election. I think it's the only election this year, is that correct?
It is. First time in a long time.
Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, for people that are moving into town for the first time, they aren't sure where they vote or anything, where do they find out where they should go to vote?
Well, if they're looking currently, they can either go to the city's website, they can contact the city clerk's office, or there's a really good website called My Vote, and they could go there, they can register to vote, and also request an absentee ballot.
We'll talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about what's on the ballot.
Sure. It's a pretty small ballot for the spring election. We do have the Justice of the Supreme Court, where we have two candidates running. Court of Appeals Judge in Wood County, it's District 4. In Marathon, it's District 3. Municipal Court Judge, which is the first election for this new multi-jurisdictional judge, because we do have a joint court now with Stratford and Spencer, and that would be John Adam Cruz, and he's running unopposed. We also have alderpersons, but only the even districts, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. They're all unopposed. Gordy Earl in District 4 has chosen not to seek re-election, so we do have a new candidate, Ken Bargander, but he's running unopposed as well. A school board, there's 2 open seats, but there's only 1 candidate, so they'll be looking for write-ins. I do believe there are 2 registered write-ins currently, but that could change before the election, so stay tuned. And also for Wood County, we have 2 referendum questions on the ballot as well.
Okay, and I know what the topic is, but I don't know what the difference is. Could you possibly read those for us?
Certainly. So the referendum questions all pertain to marijuana. And the first question is, should marijuana be legal for medical purposes only and available only by prescription through a medical dispensary? That would be a yes or no. And then question 2 would be, should marijuana be legal for adults 21 years of age and older for recreational uses to be taxed and regulated like alcohol? Yes or no? So one has to do with medically prescribed prescription or just recreational.
And of course, it's advisory only for our county.
That's correct.
Nothing will change depending on the outcome of our local, Wood County. So I think the supervisors, at least the majority of them, wanted to know how the residents of our county feel about that, so whatever that means.
Right.
To me, it's kind of useless because it's going to be a state decision.
Probably, sooner than later.
Yeah, and I'm sure that'll draw people to the ballot box when that comes up, if it does come up. All right, how do people register if they just moved into the community?
Okay, there's a couple different ways they could register. Most likely, a lot of them will come into the city clerk's office to register to vote. Or you can also use the My Vote website, and you can register to vote as well as request an absentee ballot through that website.
Okay, yeah, that's called, I did a search, a Google search on it. It's called My Vote Wisconsin. It pops right up, and then there's all kinds of information on that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not, I mean, it even, I put in my name and my address or phone, birth date or something, and it showed how many times I voted.
Right.
I have a lot of them, because of course I work for you there, so I'm there anyway, why not?
Right.
But it also tells you who your representatives are, both state and federal, I think even. There's a lot of information on My Vote Wisconsin.
Well, if somebody thinks they're registered already, I urge them to use this website. It has a lot of good, useful information. You have to put in your name exactly how you registered. So even though I go by Deb, I registered as Debbie. So if I put in Deb, I'm not going to come in. So you have to put in your name exactly as you registered. So when you put in your name, it'll show you where we have you registered at. If that's wrong, then you can change that online. You can request an absentee ballot. It shows you all your officials that represent you from state on down to school board. You can get a sample ballot, so when you're getting closer to an election, when you pull yourself up, you can see exactly what candidates will be on the ballot for yourself. because, you know, some elections,
Yeah.
it all depends where you live to
Sure,
who you're voting
obviously,
for.
yeah.
But it also has your whole voting history.
Yeah.
There's
It doesn't show who you voted for.
No, but it
just-
gives you the
voted.
dates that you voted. So if you ever question, boy, did I get credit for voting, you could go there. If you see a date not appearing, you know, I would contact the city clerk's office and we would look it
Yeah.
up.
This online registration is fairly new, the last few years.
Last few years.
But somebody can't fraudulently go in there and register if they don't actually have the documentation when they show up, is that
Right.
correct?
So what happens, they cut off outside voter registration 20 days before the election. So for this election, the last day somebody could use My Vote or mail in a registration application would be March 13th.
Okay.
So as long as it's postmarked by March 13th, we can still accept it. And the reason for that is if you're using My Vote, they're able to double check that that is your residence. And so they, you know, they double check that for us.
Okay.
Through your DMV records or, you know, whatever
Mhm.
source they use. After that, so starting on March 14th, the only way you can register before the election is to come into the city clerk's office. And then you'll need to bring in that proof of registration, and we verify it right in person. But you're not out of luck. In Wisconsin, we have same-day voter registration, so that meaning that you can come on election day and register to vote. But
At the
once
polling
again,
place.
correct. But once again, you had to bring in that proof of residence along with you.
So if you register online, all you have to, and it's accepted within the time frame you specified, you can just walk in with your ID card, you know, authorized ID card, and mark right up. You don't have to go to the folks that are on the computer.
Right. So when you use the MyVote website, you know, the program takes care of verifying all that information.
Oh, cool.
And once it's verified, it's emailed to my office.
Mhm.
We print it out, we make sure everything's filled out correctly. If there's anything wrong, we would contact you, but the state does a really good job of verifying all that information. So you don't even have to, you know, print it out and mail it in. Now, it's not saying after March 13th you can't use that. The only thing difference is you can go in there, fill it all out, but you then have to print it out
Sure.
and bring it in. So it's nice.
It takes
program
less
to
time.
use. It's readable for
Yeah.
us. You can either do that, even do that if you're going to take that to the polls.
Yeah.
Because if you know you don't have time to register ahead of time,
Mhm.
go onto the MyVote website, fill it out, print it, come in. You still have to stop by the registration table, but it does
Save time.
Save time, that you don't have to fill all that out there. And then you're going to know what to bring in with you, because in the program it will say you can bring any one of these forms of identification in with you to prove
Sure.
residency.
Yeah, and that can be helpful. Having worked at the polls for all these years, I notice that sometimes moms will come in with 2 or 3 little kids, and she starts to fill out this long form,
Right.
and the kids are all around her. I mean, it's a hectic, so mom,
Yeah.
or anybody, obviously,
Right.
can fill it out ahead of time,
Yeah.
come in, and then to make it a lot quicker for
Right.
them, a lot
Yeah.
quicker. One of the most common questions we get is, people walk in and they see me or whoever's working at the front
Mhm.
part, say, I moved from here to here, do I have to re-register? Now, that's something they could also change online.
Right, right. So anytime there's a change from your original registration, you still have to re-register. We can't automatically just go in there because you need that written documentation. So you can do that on MyVote, or you can do that in the clerk's office or on election day. But what happens a lot, and we all see it, is people will talk to their neighbors instead of contacting, because we have 3 polling locations in the city of Marshfield. So it all depends where you live is where you vote. So what happens is, especially on busier elections, people will come, get in line, register to vote, to find out that they don't have the right information, or that they do, but they're at the wrong polling location. So it's always best to do your homework before you go, because especially if you don't have a lot of time on election day, the more you can get done ahead of time, the better.
And, okay, and there's any questions? A friendly city clerk or your assistant, who is,
I have 2, Jan Altman
Mhm.
and Jessica Schifferl.
Okay.
Jessica Schifferl is my deputy.
all right. So we covered the change of address. For people that are, say, residents and training at the medical center, they're here for a month or 2, they don't qualify to vote, or they do?
Well, you only have to be a resident of the municipality or in the district in which you're going to vote at least 10 consecutive days before the election.
Okay.
But the caveat is you still have to prove residency. So you're going to have that document showing that you're residing at that location. Without that, you cannot vote.
Now, the rules are different for a federal election, but we'll go into that when there is a federal election. And there's some different rules for that. We'll address that later. So if they can show where they live and they've been here for 10 days.
10 consecutive days.
Okay. Photo ID when you vote, it doesn't, if you have a driver's license, even if, before I had a beard and gray hair, if it's within the 8 years that they give you, that works.
Yes, so there's different forms you can use. So now photo ID is different than proof of residency. So if you're already registered and you're coming in to vote, you have to bring a photo ID. For most people, it's going to be your driver's license. Now, your driver's license can be expired or unexpired. If it is expired, it could not have expired before the last November election. And so that date would have been, I believe that was November 8th or November 6th, 2018. So it always goes back to the last general election. So it could be a driver's license, a ID, a veteran's card. There's all different things you can bring in for photo ID. Now, your photo ID does not have to have your correct address on it, because for photo ID, we're only looking at your name and your picture. And you're correct, it only has to reasonably resemble you, and the name has to be resemble the name in the poll book. For instance, you may go by Don, but in the poll book it could be Donald, something like that. It's just a version of that name. You have a beard now, maybe your ID does not. You know, people color their hair, they cut their hair. So it just has to reasonably resemble you.
Okay. And your poll workers are trained.
Yes.
And you have a good group.
Yes, I do have a very good
people
group.
that work at the tables there.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, you are. Okay, so we've covered that. What are some of the deadlines, particularly like absentee ballots? When do they have to be in? And for people that plan to vote, but all of a sudden they're in the medical center and they can't vote because, you know.
Right. So there's all different kind of deadlines depending upon what situation you're encountering. So we're still waiting to get the ballots in. They're at printers currently. So once they become available, we'll mail those out to all those that have a request on file currently. The first day for somebody to vote in person in the clerk's office will be on, I wrote it down, we're going to have in-person absentee voting from March 18th through March 29th. So the full 2 weeks before the election, anybody can come in and vote in the clerk's office as long as there is to be a Marshfield resident. We do have, you know, especially bigger election people stopping by, they think just because they work in the city of Marshfield, they can vote here. That's not the case. You have to be a resident of the city of Marshfield. If you're military or indefinitely confined or hospitalized elector that needs an absentee ballot, there's special exceptions to that, so the best thing to do is just contact my office and we can walk you through that process.
Yeah, I looked on my Vote Wisconsin, and there are special rules for active duty military and people that are overseas for whatever reason. And they have a little more leeway as to when they can get their ballots in.
Now, overseas voters are not allowed to vote in this election. They can only vote in federal elections. But military can vote in every election.
I learned something. We've been doing this for 20 years, and I've learned something every time. Maybe the rules change.
I like to keep you on your toes, though.
That's true. Sometime I'm going to ask you about whether or not you think any of the Russians have impacted the election, you know, because I ran for an office once and I lost by just a few votes. And do you think the Russians have anything to do with that?
That's another show.
Okay,
but
show.
I can assure everybody, I'm very confident in the equipment that we have in Wisconsin. We've had audits, we've had recounts, and nothing other than fine.
The system we have is much different than we're kind of getting you. But in Florida, they have a different system, and Florida always seems to have some controversy. But up here, we don't.
Yeah, you know what, I do get calls from residents concerned about different things, and legitimate concerns. But again, you have to think about where is this information coming from? Is it happening in Wisconsin or another state? Because every state has its own laws regarding elections, so just because it's happening in
Yeah.
Florida doesn't.
There's a
mean
lot of
something-
issues that we see on TV, ballot harvesting, where
Right.
people go around and collect absentee ballots. We don't have any of that around here.
No, I mean, you have to count for everything. We're checking, double checking.
Yeah.
We do in the clerk's office, they do at the polls, and, it all has to reconcile at the end of the night.
And besides that, after you've certified, not you, but the county clerk certifies, then we have a audit team of, is it an alderman? After everything's said and done, they have an audit where people come in to verify what you verified for the county clerk.
Well, if we're talking about the same audit, so after certain elections, the state has a lottery, and so many municipalities are chosen.
Yeah.
Well, we were the lucky ones chosen for November. Knock on wood, it was the city of Marshfield,
Yeah.
Marathon County.
Yeah.
But what that does is we have to take it to the county, and we hand count all the ballots,
Oh,
because
my.
what we're doing is, we're hand counting to make sure that the machine is reading it like a human would read it, to make sure it reconciles, and,
Mhm.
100% on that one,
I know
so
you
it's
would.
really nice
Yeah.
to.
Well,
double check.
we have a good operation. Optical scanners are
Yes.
reliable, and you have a good crew of people that are well-trained on it.
Right.
So the hours to vote are,
Yes, 7:30, or 7 a.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. Just checking on you, Don. No, 7 a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, April 2nd.
and if you're in the building at 8 o'clock, you
You
can
can
vote.
vote,
If
yes.
you try to get in after 8:01, somebody will stop you and say,
Right.
I'm sorry, but you just missed it.
Right.
We stick to it, but if you're in the building, you're fine.
Right, and we have chief election inspectors
Mhm.
at each polling location. They declare when the polls are open, and they declare the polls
Yeah.
when they're closed. So after they make that announcement, anybody coming in to vote would no longer be
Sure.
eligible,
Right.
allowed to vote.
I didn't mention earlier when I should have, you can vote from your vehicle if you're disabled because somebody will come up at
Right.
curbside voting.
Right, that's called curbside voting.
Not
So
curbside.
on election day, if you are unable to make it into a polling location, and you have somebody drive you, you just have that person come in. We have to make an announcement that we have a person in vehicle. 2 of our election inspectors go out.
Mhm.
They always have to work in pairs, and they'll bring the ballot out to the person and allow them to vote, and then it's brought back in and put through the machine.
Yeah, and it may be some of that this year because with the snow and ice, of which there is quite a bit, people that are, have ambulatory devices,
Right.
walkers or canes or so forth. I know the city crew will do as best they can, but with our climate being the way it is right now, you may say it's not worth it, and we will accommodate anybody.
We will.
wants to vote.
There's many opportunities to vote, like we said, curbside voting, you can vote at the polls. Otherwise, you can request an absentee ballot. So, if you have that fear of going out,
Yeah.
and you prefer to receive that ballot at your home, you can talk
And
about
that might be
how-
a good idea this
Right.
year, because I don't know if the snow will melt by April
Well, I'm
2nd.
sure we'll still have some, but let's just hope it's a little bit warmer.
You're the optimist.
I'm trying.
All right, Deb, that's it. Thank you for stopping by again and clarifying some of the rules, and we'll see you and your deputies at the polling places, which are the community center,
2nd Street Community Center, the Oak Avenue Community Center, and the Wildwood Station. Thank you, Glenn. Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll see you on election day.
All right, thanks for
And
having me.
Please vote. It's your opportunity to express your opinions and pick the people you want to represent you, so we hope to see you on April 2nd.